Welcome to AAPI Voice, a program that promotes AAPI community. I'm Lisa Gray with my co-host, Grace Lee. Today, we have the pleasure of talking with the current Oakland County Executive, David Coulter, who is running for re-election. David, thank you for taking time to talking with us. How are you today?
It is my pleasure. I'm doing very well, thank you. How are you both?
We are doing well.
Yeah, thank you. Nice to meet you.
Very nice to meet you. Thanks for having me on your show. I'm excited.
David, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, how your professional experiences prepared you for this position, and what is your vision for Oakland County?
So I've been in politics, elected office for 18 years now. I spent 8 years as an Oakland County Commissioner. So that's like the legislative body of the county government, right? And I did that for 8 years while Brooks Patterson was the county executive. So I got to learn county government very well in that experience. And then when I left there, I became the mayor of Ferndale, Michigan. And I did that for almost 9 years until I became the county executive. So I left that position to become the county executive. So I've been in, I've been in office for 18 years, but I will say that both county commissioner and mayor were part-time jobs. So I've also always had a full-time job as well. So I've been a very busy guy for a while. My last job when I was mayor, I also worked at Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation. And we raised money and gave money to programs that helped, sick children and their families get through a very difficult time in their lives. So I took a lot of pride and satisfaction in doing that work as well. So I think especially the mayor job has prepared me to do this sort of executive work. In a job like this, there's something that comes up new every day. You really have to be responsive. You have to be reactive, and you have to know what your values are. And what I've tried to bring to this position and the kind of county executive that I've tried to be is somebody who is collaborative, who listens to all sides, truly listens, and tries to make decisions that work out for the best interests of most people. I've also tried to be a county executive who celebrates and respects all of our residents. In Ferndale, we were a welcoming city, and I was very proud of that. We wanted everybody to know that you are whoever you are, wherever you're from, whatever color you are, we want you to know that you're welcome to come to Ferndale. And I have that same attitude about Oakland County. We are now officially a welcoming county as well. And I'm very proud of that because our diversity is our strength. It's the richness of the fabric of our diversity is an important asset for Oakland County. And I'm not sure that we've always celebrated it and talked about it like that. So that's one of the things that I'm committed to doing. And frankly, one of the reasons I wanted to have an opportunity to talk with you both as well.
One of the top issues affecting everyone in the county is obviously the COVID-19 crisis. What actions have you taken during this crisis, and what is your plan moving forward?
COVID hit Oakland County very hard. The first positive case in Michigan was in Oakland County, and between us and Detroit and ultimately Macomb County, we were the hardest hit in the state. There's no question about it. The good news for those of you who are residents of Oakland County, I want you to be able to be confident in the fact that we have an incredibly talented and professional public health department here. We have 4 epidemiologists on our staff in Oakland County. These are people who are trained in dealing with outbreaks, dealing with viruses. Now, nobody in their lifetime has seen something like a global pandemic like this, but from the very beginning, we took this very seriously, and we leaned in on the health and science of this, And we've really taken that to heart. You know, I know that the governor has had to make some very difficult, but I think necessary and important health orders for the state. But we've done the same thing in Oakland County. In fact, some of our orders were actually a little bit more strict than hers. We closed down the shopping malls, for instance, before the state had mandated that, because I think that's important. It is a health challenge, and I believe that we have saved lives by taking that approach. By the same token, it's also an economic challenge. Businesses are struggling, our residents are struggling, and so the county has really tried to be very proactive. We are, Oakland County, the economic engine of Michigan. We create more jobs in Oakland County than any other county in the state, and it's important for the state, not just for us, that we get back on our feet economically. So we've given over $50 million in direct grant support to our local businesses. We're working with them through our health department to get them reopening kits so that they know how to reopen and they have the supplies that they need, the masks and the PPE and the thermometers, because I'm very concerned about particularly our small businesses and how they're going to get through this. And so we're doing everything we can to fight this, both on a science side and on an economic side. And I think you'll see, you know, our numbers have come down, they've come way down. And that's because of all of the good work that people in Oakland County have done to take this seriously, to stay home when they can, to wear their masks and all of the things that we ask. Oakland County has done a great job. Our residents have done a great job of doing that, and I'm very appreciative. And that's how we brought the curve down. And so far, so good. But we're not out of the woods yet. The virus isn't gone, and we still have to be vigilant about keeping it at bay.
As you may be aware, there has been some racial discrimination cases toward Asian Pacific Americans due to the COVID-19 crisis. What will you do? What have you done in helping Asian Pacific Americans feel safe in the current environment?
It breaks my heart and it disgusts me to hear some of the things that we've heard. And even more troubling is that some of it's coming from the President of the United States. And I'm just embarrassed by that. And I cringe when I hear him make these kinds of derogatory remarks. It's not who we are as Americans. His perception of who an American is just not fair. As I said, America is all of us, and Oakland County is all of us together. And I've been very proactive about making sure that everyone understands that. So when you say, what have we done? First of all, we formally made Oakland County a welcoming county. We declared to everyone that we are not going to tolerate that kind of discrimination and bigotry in our county. We also passed, after I became executive, the first non-discrimination policy in Oakland County history. And it covers all of our employees, but it also covers our vendors and our contractors. We're not going to take discrimination lightly in this county against anyone. And then thirdly, I recreated and hired a brand new position in Oakland County called Chief Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Officer, because I want to make sure that every policy that we create, every program that we run is fair to everybody. And I'm a white man. I don't always know what it's like to walk in other people's shoes, but I want to make sure that I hear from folks and they let me understand where something we may be doing or something they may be hearing is offensive or wrong to anyone in our community. And so I take that very seriously, and I'm just heartbroken by the things that I hear.
Creating that department, inclusion, diversity, inclusion, that was really, really good idea. And we applaud for that.
I appreciate it.
Education, it's a top priority to Asian families.
Yes.
How would you make sure the Asian kids would have equal opportunity in education in your county?
Education is so important, and sort of like being mayor, executive is similar in that I don't run the schools, but if we're going to have a healthy city or a healthy county, we have to have strong, equitable, fair schools for everybody. And so while I don't run the schools, I work very closely with our schools to make sure that we're giving all the support that we can. And I'll give you one example of that. We talk about COVID. The schools are trying to figure out how are they going to reopen in the fall? What is that going to look like? How do you do online classes, or how do you bus kids to school? All of those questions. And so even though the schools have to, are struggling with figuring that out, one of the things I did is I said, we're going to hire 58 public health nurses that are trained in COVID, and we're going to assign them to all of the school districts in Oakland County. We're going to pay for it. We're going to give them to the schools, and they're going to help make sure that the way we reopen our schools is safe for our kids. And that's safe in all ways. Obviously safe from coronavirus, but also addressing any discrimination and those sort of things that happen there. Again, we have to stand up for each other. We have to recognize that we're all in this together. And so education is the way that people advance in this country. It's the way that you can have a better life, is to get a good education. And it's absolutely critical that we do that.
Outside of your professional experiences, what are some of the ways that you have been involved in the community?
Well, in a number of ways. I mentioned Children's Hospital of Michigan, and I have kind of a health-related background, not a medical background, but a health-related background. So when I heard that, when I got this job and I understood that the health department reports to me, that's something that I take very seriously. If the health and welfare of Oakland County is going to rest on my shoulders, I'm going to make sure I know about that department, all the things we're doing, the things we're not doing, and look at how we can do that better. So certainly working at Children's Hospital of Michigan Foundation has been a big education for me. I used to serve on the Ferndale Library Board. You talk about education and the importance of that. And this was back in a time when people wondered, are libraries still relevant? In the age of the internet, do people still need libraries? But I believe that kind of education and community education is still so critical. So we work to expand our library in Ferndale and to connect them better to the schools, to make sure that the kids in the schools had access to all of the resources in the library. And it's been a tremendous success. And so that's another thing I worked on previously that I'm proud of.
As you mentioned earlier, that economic power is one of Oakland County's strengths. But we are lacking innovation strategy in the past few years. Automation Alley used to be the incubators for the startups. But they are now focusing probably more on the Industry 4.0, the growth companies. In Oakland University, they have incubators, but they are kind of weak. So what is your plan for innovation in startups so we can create jobs moving forward?
So I'm really glad you asked that, because, I like the way you put that. One of the things I discovered is that we have some things that worked well in the past, and it's not clear if they're still the right way to go now. And this isn't a criticism of when they were created and how they worked, but what I discovered when I became county executive is that we haven't done a strategic plan for economic development in 20 years in Oakland County, in 20 years. So I told my economic development director, I have a new one now, and I said, that's not right. Things have changed in the last 20 years. Things have changed in the last 5 years. And we need to understand what are the needs and opportunities now, and what are they going to be, what are these opportunities going forward? So we started this January, we hired a consultant, and we're doing an entirely new strategic plan for Oakland County's economic development. Now, the things that are working, of course, we're going to keep. It's not about getting rid of everything. But what are the new opportunities? And we were going to roll this out in April, and then COVID happened. But we're still working on it. and we're still going to roll it out. So there's going to be a number of things that you're going to see in there, but I'll give you a sneak peek of some of the things. One of them is defense work. Michigan does not get its fair share of defense work. And there's a lot of defense contracts coming out of Washington that our companies could be bidding on. And we have members of the Armed Services Committee from Michigan in Washington. So we have the political power and we have the talent in Oakland County to get more defense work. And we're going to go after that. The other thing I want to make sure of is that we're doing everything we can to promote entrepreneurs. We do a pretty good job of attracting businesses here, but what about somebody who wants to start a business here? Or maybe he has a small business but wants to grow it here. I want to make sure that our economic development strategy also is addressing those opportunities as well. There's lots more that are going to be in that, so stay tuned, but that's very important that Oakland County stay ahead of the curve. And I was shocked to learn that we hadn't done that in 20 years.
Regional public transit has always been a hot topic when the 3 county executives, directors, and the mayor of Detroit get together.
Yes.
And you voted to support the proposal recently. What is your vision of the regional public transit, and how do you plan to support it?
So when I first ran for office back in 2002, 18 years ago, I ran on the issue of public mass transportation for Metro Detroit. We're one of the only regions in all of the country that doesn't really have a mass transit system. And I think as a result, we're really missing out. I think our employers are looking, they're telling me we need transit to help our employees get around. Obviously, our residents need it to get around. We need it to compete with other regions in the country. You know, we're losing our young people in Metro Detroit. We're not growing as a region. They're moving to Chicago and LA and San Francisco and New York, not just for transit, but that's one of the things that draws them out of here. Here's a statistic that I found very alarming. If you look at the regions of the country over the last 10 years that have made significant investments in transit, they have grown by an average of 17%. Metro Detroit in the last 10 years has shrunk 6%. So to me, it is an economic imperative, and it's just the right thing to do for our residents to give them greater access to other mobility options. And we need to do this. Now, you're right. You talked about earlier this year, we had a plan. We thought it was a bipartisan plan. We had Republicans and Democrats in Lansing tell us that they were all on board. I had the mayor of Detroit on board, the county executive of Wayne County on board. And then when we took it to the legislature, a handful of Republicans got all upset about it and they didn't like it and they killed it. So we have to go back and do it again. But I will just tell you this, I'm not giving up. I got thick skin. I don't take no for an answer. So I will continue to fight for a transit system.
I understand there'll be a 30 years financial obligation to that. So how are we going to do that? Was it going to be raise taxes, or how are we going to funding if it's moving forward?
The plan that we had proposed would have been a property tax mechanism. So, and keep in mind, I don't have the power to raise those taxes. This would be a plan that would go on the ballot. So if the voters decided that that was a reasonable cost, and we're going to try to keep the cost as low as possible, obviously, but if you're going to have transit, there's going to have to be some kind of, financing mechanism. There's no transit system in the country that gets by just on the money that you put in the fare box, right? It just doesn't work that way. But you know what? There is also a lot of federal money, a lot of grants that we could be getting that are going to other places. So yeah, there would have to be some kind of a small tax that voters would have to vote for. And if they chose not to, then they could do that. But I think it's worth asking the voters about that.
Foreign investment has always been an important growth strategy for Oakland County.
Yes.
What is your plan to attract more foreign investment during this current economic climate?
You're right. Foreign investment is huge in Oakland County. It's part of why we've been so successful, and we have to encourage that and do more. So I've talked a lot with our economic development folks, but I'll tell you the biggest change that I've made from my predecessor. There's a group that you may be familiar with called the Detroit Regional Partnership, or the DRP. And their sole function is to go around the world looking at companies that make sense for Metro Detroit and introducing them to this region. Now, Brooks Patterson very famously said he would never join that group because Oakland County is, we don't want to lose businesses to Detroit or Macomb or the like. But my perspective is this: they're a neutral group. They bring companies into Southeast Michigan, but they don't try to sell them on where to go in Southeast Michigan. So I believe that if they can be more successful at bringing even more companies to our region, Oakland County can close the deal, because we have such a great quality of life. We have such a great talented workforce that we will get our fair share of companies. And you know what? If occasionally one goes to Macomb County or Detroit, that's okay for the region too. Our competition is not Detroit. Our competition is other regions in the country and other countries in the world. So I want to work more collaboratively with the region, and I believe that Oakland County will do just fine, and we'll get our fair share of the companies that are interested in this region.
And one of the candidates discussed his plan to build 8 regional hospitals in the county to help the low-income residents. And what's your opinion about it?
I don't know all the details, just what I saw on his website, but one of my first impressions was it sounds really expensive. It's not easy to build a health facility. But here's what I did, because as I said before, healthcare is very important to me. And even before COVID, we started working on what I called Oakland Health 360. So Oakland County currently runs 2 health clinics in the county. One up in Pontiac on our county campus, and another one in Southfield. You can go there like any kind of health clinic, public health clinic. You could get a TB shot there. You could get your kids vaccinated for school there, those kinds of services. But I said, what if we take those 2 clinics and transform them into medical facilities for everybody in Oakland County that's affordable and accessible and has all the services, which is why we call it 360. So here's what we're working on. I asked the Board of Commissioners for $4 million to help do this, and they approved it. So we're already starting to do this. We're going to make our clinics, in addition to the typical public health things that you could get, you're going to be able to get primary medical care. You're going to be able to get mental health care there. You're going to be able to get women's health care there that we've never offered before. Children's dental care will be available in these offices. And also very exciting to me, we're going to have one of the human service agencies have counselors there. So for instance, if a young mom comes in and she's getting her kids vaccinated, but her kids aren't insured, or maybe she got a shut-off notice for her light bill and she doesn't know how to navigate that, there will be counselors to help her understand how she can get the resources she needs. So kind of a one-stop shop for all of your health-related needs. And so we're currently working on that, and we're going to see how it goes. It's $4 million, but I think it's an investment worth making. And if it works, we can add additional clinics down the line. But I think just coming out of the gate with 9 medical offices, it strikes me as very, very ambitious and very expensive.
Final question for you.
Okay.
Could you please summarize and share with the audiences that why should voters vote for you?
Thank you. I'm not a flashy guy. I don't have the sort of big personality that Brooks Patterson had. But I'll tell you this: I'm a guy who likes to get things done, and I like to work together and bring people together to focus on solutions. I don't pretend to have all the answers, but I know that within this county, There's 1.2 million smart people here, and the answer is in this county. And so bringing people together, getting everybody's input, having everybody with a seat at the table, and then coming up with the best plan that works for everybody, that's sort of my leadership style. That's what I did in Ferndale. It's what I've tried to do as the county executive. You know, here's an example of that. We have on our board, our county board, 11 Democrats and 10 Republicans. Ooh, that's pretty closely split. I said, when we passed the budget, I want it to be unanimous. I want everybody to vote for it. Well, you know, that doesn't happen in Lansing, and it certainly doesn't happen in Washington. But I meant it, and we worked together, both parties working together, and when we adopted our 3-year balanced budget, they adopted it unanimously, every commissioner. For me, that's a home run. That's what I try to do, get everybody on the same page if it's possible. I know it's not always possible, but I'm the kind of collaborative leader that wants to hear from everyone and wants everyone to feel included. And that's what I've tried to do as your county executive for the last year.
If voters want to reach out to you or your office, particularly your diversity inclusion officer, what is the contact information?
On the county side, you can go to our website, which is oakgov.com. And then I think my picture pops up there. You can just click on it and it'll give you all the different emails and numbers. And that'll get through to me at my work office.
David, Grace and I thank you so much for taking time to be on our show.
Yes, I appreciate it. This was really enjoyable. You're both lovely, and I've really enjoyed it. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. For everyone watching, thank you very much for joining us. Please subscribe our channel and see you next time.
在这个必须保持社交距离的时候，我们可以一起做一件事，完成2020年人口普查。你的回复对于医疗保健、公共设施和教育在未来10年的规划非常重要。现在上2020 census.gov， 花几分钟时间便可以带来改变。为了你的社区和开展美国的未来，即刻上2020 census.gov/languages 回复人口普查。